Hello and welcome back to the class novel Light on Dumyat. We are on chapter 9 and it's called Test in Time. A what test? Asked Gavin. An initiative test, repeated Claire. When our cousin Frida wanted to join the clan, we made her hunt and shoot a rabbit with a bow and arrow and then cook it. Did she do it? Asked Gavin. Yes, said Claire, but we all helped in the end. We only killed one rabbit. We felt so sorry for it that we didn't kill any more. Mott's got a hat made out of rabbit skin, said Michael. It looks like a trapper's hat. In fact, he tries to tell people that fur trappers gave it to an uncle who was a ship's captain and the uncle gave it to him. Actually, he got the skins from Dad. Mott coloured. It is a trapper hat, he said stoutly. The trappers did give it away. I'm not surprised they gave it away, said Claire. You should smell it. Gavin returned to the important question of the initiative test. What would you like me to do so I can join, he asked. Claire thought for a moment. I've got it, she said. You can be a fugitive and we'll hunt you down. If we catch you, you can't join. If you stay free, we'll make you a member of the clan alliance. Gavin blinked. A fugitive? It sounded rather a hard test. Claire spread a map on the floor. Come and look, she said. Mott, Michael and Gavin knelt down and peered at the map. Claire traced a wide circle with her finger. Do you see this area here, she said, her finger marking out the whole of Dumyat, the woods at the base. Aunt Elspeth's house and large grounds and the 3 nearest hills. Well, you have a day and a night to find or build yourself a hideout, Claire went on. You must cook 1 meal in it and sleep 1 night in it. We'll try to track you down. Gavin thought hard. He looked at the map again. It certainly seemed a very wide area, thick with woods and containing a lot of wild country. Surely he could find somewhere to hide. Do you think that's fair, Claire? Said Michael. After all, Gavin is new to this area. Should we not give him an extra day to do his planning and then hunt for him? Mott chimed in. Yes, he added. Besides, Gavin is from the city. He doesn't know anything about lighting a fire out of doors, what wood to choose and so on. Let him have 1 day to prepare, he continued. I'll teach him something about the different trees in the meantime. What do you say, Gavin? Gavin thought. It did seem to be a bit better if Mott was going to show him the ropes. All right, he said. That's fine by me. Good, said Claire. Now let's go over it again today. Today is Tuesday. Gavin can have the rest of today to plan, if he likes. Mott can teach him some woodcraft tomorrow, Wednesday. But from Thursday morning all through Thursday until Friday night, he's a fugitive. If we don't catch Gavin, where shall we meet him when the contest is over? Asked Michael. We'd better meet in the cave. We'll make it at night so that Gavin has plenty of time to get back to the house if he's making his hideout far away. Is that agreed? Agreed, chorused Mott and Michael. Agreed, said Gavin, who had little choice. Great, said Claire. We can really have some fun and we'll make a clan feast the next night. If you win through, Gavin, we'll make you the clan scout. I'm the chief, Claire went on. Mott is the sword bearer. He carries our dirk at council meetings. Michael is the clan piper. Actually, he doesn't play the pipes, but he's got a mouth organ. He only knows 3 tunes, a march, a dance tune and a lament. What's a lament? Asked Gavin. It's a sad tune played when someone dies, generally someone famous, a hero or something like that. What are the tunes called? Asked Gavin, who liked music. The march is called Heelin' Laddie, said Michael, pulling a mouth organ out of his pocket and playing a few bars of a stirring marching tune. The dance tune is called Kate Dalrymple. With more confidence, he played a lively tune with a quick beat that made Gavin want to tap his feet. The lament is called Lochaber No More, continued Michael. Getting slightly red in the face with effort, he played a slow, mournful tune that seemed very tuneless to Gavin. Out of breath, Michael returned the mouth organ to his pocket. He only knows 3, said Claire again, this time in a tone of disgust. I'm practising a 4th, said Michael. What is it? Asked Gavin. Lament for Claire Stewart, retorted Michael. A few minutes later, Gavin was bounding down the hill. He must hurry. He wanted to question Aunt Elspeth about the estate. She might know some good hiding places unknown to the clan. After all, it was a private estate. Even the daring members of the clan would not go there as often as they did on the hills. That seemed the best bet. He hurried on, his mind full of plans for hideouts. At least he had some time to prepare. He would spend the evening planning his campaign. Tomorrow morning, Mott was going to teach him woodcraft, and after that, he was on his own. Chapter 10. The Secret Castle. Gavin raced into the house, burst in through the front door and took the stairs 2 at a time up to his bedroom. Breathless, he dumped his anorak and rucksack on the floor of his room, then bounded downstairs again to the kitchen. His aunt looked at him in surprise. "What on earth's the hurry?" she asked. "Aunt Elspeth," gasped Gavin, "I need some advice." "Well, you can have my advice while you're eating your tea," retorted his aunt, pulling out a chair from the table. "Now, not another word until you are eating." Seeing she was being quite firm, Gavin dutifully sat down and began to chew quickly. He swallowed a few mouthfuls, then said anxiously, "Aunt Elspeth, do you know any good hiding places on the estate?" "Hiding places?" said his aunt in surprise. "What kind of hiding places?" Quickly, Gavin told her about meeting his new friends. He said nothing about having to sleep in his hiding place, just that he was to be a fugitive and the clan would try to hunt him down. His aunt's lips twitched. "I know your clan," she said. "Claire's father is a friend of your Uncle Fergus. He sometimes comes over here, but he hasn't been here for some time, since your uncle began working so hard on his book. You seem to have met some nice friends," she went on. "So you need somewhere you can hide for a day and cook a meal. That's not too easy. I'll tell you what, you carry on with your tea and I'll slip into the library and get the estate map off the wall, and then we can have a look at that." So, with a reassuring pat on the shoulder, she left the room. A few minutes later, she returned carrying a large map in a picture frame. "Phew," she said, "the back is covered with dust. Give me a hand to clear the table." Gavin eagerly jumped down and carried away all the plates and cups until the large wooden table was cleared. His aunt put the map down and looked at it very carefully. "When Uncle Fergus's grandfather was alive," she said, "the estate was much bigger than it is today. The family made a lot of money out of jute mills in Dundee, and they bought this estate and developed it. Do you remember the stone wall bordering the drive, the old lodges at the gates and the pillars with the lions on top?" she continued. Gavin nodded. "Well, they built all of that. They came here to hunt and fish and relax in the days when there were plenty of wealthy landowners. There are not so many today." She chuckled. "Your Uncle Fergus and I are certainly not rich, but the estate is still quite big. Some of the silver he is so proud of came from his grandfather. I remember when I was a girl and we used to walk along some of the estate paths to summer houses that were built in the woods. Some of them were falling into disuse and the paths were getting overgrown. There was one that might suit you. It was built to look like a hidden castle." "A castle?" asked Gavin in disbelief. "Yes," said his aunt. "It was built as a summer playground for children, but it got a bit derelict when we visited it. I remember the path passed at the foot of a cliff and just beside 2 yew trees. You should be able to find them." "Yes, here it is." "What are yew trees?" said Gavin, following her finger on the map. "They're evergreens. There aren't many here, so you should find them in the wood. They will be thick and dark green, and there are only 2 of them. That wood is nearly all plane and beech trees, and their leaves will be light green. Now take a look at this," his aunt went on. "Do you see that path branching off near the house? Well, it runs past the old ornamental loch down to a narrow road through the woods. The road is still used by farm carts and forestry workers. The path crosses the road and goes back into the woods again through an old gateway. You'll find that the path is still well trodden as far as that. It then runs up through the woods to the cliffs at the top, just before the woods finish at the foot of the hills. But the path after that will be overgrown. You might find that the castle has tumbled down, but it's worth a look. It had a fireplace. When you said you had to cook a meal, that's what brought it back to me. Thanks, Aunt Elspeth. That sounds fine, says Gavin. Do you think the Stuarts know of it? No, I'm sure they don't, said his aunt. You see, most of their time, I gather, is spent on the Ochils, or so their father says. They do come into these woods, but the woods are not their favourite spot. I know they do come in, and I don't mind, but I'm sure they don't come very often. Anyway, you'll have time this evening to go and have a look. You'll be able to see if there are tracks to tell you if they've been there. Yes, I'll go now, said Gavin, getting to his feet. Thanks a lot, Aunt Elspeth. Oh, that's all right, she said. We must uphold the honour of the McRaes. Encouraged by this last remark, Gavin made another request. Aunt Elspeth, if I gave you most of my pocket money, would you buy me 3 things in sterling? Certainly, said his aunt. What are they? I'd like a blue Balmoral bonnet with ribbons at the back, a McRae badge, and a sash of McRae tartan. That's what all the Stuarts have, but there's a Stuart tartan, of course. You see, if I win and stay hidden, I can join the clan alliance. Aunt Elspeth laughed again. She seemed to be enjoying this just as much as Gavin. All right, she said. I plan to go into Stirling on Thursday. In fact, I was going to stay for a couple of nights and return here on Saturday morning. I do that once a fortnight when I go to visit an old school friend. She's on her own, you see, and likes the company. It would only be for a night or 2 at the most. I've told Uncle Fergus to leave his silver notes for once and devote his time to you. Oh, I don't want to disturb him, said Gavin. I shall really be quite all right by myself. It'll do him good, said Aunt Elspeth. He needs disturbing. Off you go and see if you can find the 2 yew trees and the castle, but be sure to get back by bedtime. Gavin was soon hurrying through the woods, enjoying the sensation of having no rucksack on his back. What a holiday I'm having, he thought. It seemed to have been all excitement since he first arrived. Tomorrow Mott was going to teach him how to crawl and stalk animals and how to light woodland fires. Soon he trotted down to the sunken road that Aunt Elspeth had mentioned. He searched along the stone wall bordering it until he found the narrow entrance between the pillars. There was no gate, only moss-covered steps, and the pillars now green and chipped by the weather. He stopped and looked ahead. The evening sun was slanting down through the tall trees, throwing their light green leaves into sharp relief. He listened carefully and looked around. Perhaps the clan was hunting him already. You could never tell. But there was no sound, only the singing and whistling of the evening birds and the soft swishing noises that comes when the trees are moving softly in the wind. The path was covered in dead leaves, but Gavin could see its outline quite clearly. It curved up the slope until it disappeared in large clumps of rhododendrons and other bushes. The ground was carpeted with ferns and coarse grass and other woodland plants. Soon the ground grew steep and the slope became slippery. Gavin had to cling to the trunks of the trees to pull himself up. He stopped, breathless, leaning against the smooth trunk of a tall ash. There was no path now, just a steep slope closely covered with trees and bushes. He pushed his way upwards, noisily crushing dead branches and twigs underfoot. Branches whipped against his anorak and face as he tried to find open spaces. He came across a little clearing and sat down to plan his next move. All around he could see nothing but trees and green undergrowth. Nothing stirred. Even the birds had fallen silent. There was still plenty of light, but the shadows were lengthening as the sun went down. What was it Aunt Elspeth had said? Look for the dark green mass of 2 U's. You can see it against the light green of other trees. That was it. Gavin carefully examined the ground ahead. Peeping out among the trees, he could see a large cliff with more trees at its top and brambles and other creepers growing on its face. He struggled up to the foot of the cliff. It did seem as if the ground was flat there. It could perhaps have been a path once. Picking his way carefully, he moved slowly along the foot of the rock. Glancing upwards, he could not see the top because the trees and the bushes hung well over. Then, rounding a corner, he came across a little stone arch. From a distance it could not be seen. It just looked like any number of grey-barked trees in the woods. It rose from one side of the path and curved up and over until it merged into the cliff. At its far side, the ground fell away in another tumble of rocks. Through the arch, Gavin could see 2 dark trees. Excited, he moved forward. The path was firm and free from branches. Although it had a layer of brown dead leaves, the cliff on his right was sheer and smooth. On his left were the 2 yew trees, old and thick and dark. They formed an impenetrable mass between the path. Gavin stopped to examine the wood of their cork-like trunks and the dark green needles. The yews effectively hid the stone arch from below. The cliff and the overhanging trees hid it from above. Then, suddenly, he was in the middle of the castle. The path ended in a grassy glade about the size of a small room. A chest-high stone wall ran along the left of the path, ending in a tower built against the back of the cliff. When Gavin peered over, he could only see the tops of trees waving greenly below him. If he reached out, he could touch the top twigs. He guessed that they must hide the castle from below. Built against the cliff in a corner was a chimney of grey stone with an open space at its foot. Smoke from the fire would be hidden until it merged at the top of the cliff and would then be lost in the branches of the trees at the top. Even if someone saw the smoke and looked down, they would not be able to see where it was coming from. But the most exciting part was still to come. A staircase ran up the side of the cliff. It was bordered by a stone wall on the left. Gavin mounted it slowly, kicking and scraping at the dead leaves and twigs that hid the stone steps. The steps ended at the top of the tower that formed the far part of the castle. From this high point, Gavin could look over the top of the branches of the trees. Beyond, he could see the silver water of the Forth River and the houses of Stirling with the castle on its rock behind. He felt just like a bird. It was as though he too were perched on a top twig. What a place! Looking down from the tower, he could see that the walls at the front of the little castle were really quite high, and they were built of the same stone as the cliff behind. From quite close up, they would appear to be the cliff. The only entrance and exit was through the archway that Gavin had first discovered. No one could climb the cliffs from either above or below. Peering down, he could see that there was another small room at the foot of the door, on the edge of the green space, but the walls had tumbled down. None of the rooms had roofs. There was nowhere that was covered, but it was still a splendid hiding place. Gavin clambered down with a sigh of satisfaction. He now had a secret den, and he also had a plan to put the hounds off the scent.